Hello students, it's Chris from IELTS Daily, and today we have a very special video. I am joined by Mustafa, who comes from Uzbekistan, and Mustafa has kindly agreed to do a speaking practice test with me. So if you're ready, let's get started. As I mentioned, we've got Mustafa from Uzbekistan and he is on the line right now. I'm going to get my headphones so that I can hear him. Mustafa has taken the test before and he kindly agreed to be part of the session today. So Mustafa, very warm welcome to you.
Hey Chris, how are you? Thanks for having me. Glad to see you.
My pleasure. So you are a student or you have taken the IELTS test before. We are going to do a mock simulation of the speaking test. Let me ask you a question first of all. Tell me a little bit about you.
All right. Yeah, as it's all, my name is Mustafa. So I'm 21 years old. Currently, I'm doing a lot of teaching, both online and face-to-face. Recently, I have also joined a very special team. Right now, we are working on a very gigantic project, planning to teach over 500 students online in Uzbekistan.
That's amazing. Tell me about that project.
All right, so this is a very big project. We are planning to teach. So this is the second version of the project. Last time, our team taught over 400 students, but this time we are planning to teach over 500 students, and then it's going to gradually improve in Uzbekistan.
So tell me a little bit about your IELTS journey. Why did you decide to take IELTS and what did you score in your first test?
Well, IELTS is becoming pretty much popular in Uzbekistan. It's like a trend. So a lot of people are interested in the IELTS. My IELTS journey was like pretty much uncommon, really, really unique. I did completely isolated myself to crack a very high band score in the IELTS exam. So at the beginning of the last year, I took the test and then I scored 8.5 in listening, sevens in reading and writing, and eight in my speaking. However, I'm planning to score 8.5 this upcoming month. So time will tell.
Amazing, amazing scores. Well done. And what do you think is the hardest part for you?
I think writing section is the hardest one for me, because not because I do not like writing. I love it. I like writing like romantic stories. But in Uzbekistan, we have the education center, the system, and which is kind of different compared to developed countries like the UK, the US. It's pretty much hard for Uzbeki people, Uzbeki students to develop writing skills, probably because we lack professional teachers. I don't know, but we are working on that.
Thank you. So, are you ready to do a sample or practice speaking test with me?
Yes, let's crack.
In the first part of the test, I'd like to talk about you. So, tell me about your hometown.
My hometown. So I was born and raised in Tashkent, which is the capital city of Uzbekistan. It's both traditional and modern. We have these ancient roots and historical places that scream tradition, while some parts of the city have like modern buildings and a lot of like skyscrapers,
Thank
fancy
you.
cafes. So yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to talk about museums. Do you have museums in your hometown?
Yes, there are many, many museums in Tashkent. We have historical museums, we have modern build museums. I personally make a visit to historical ones from time to time. Well, not all the time, but I do my best. I really enjoy exploring a diverse array of historical like objects, sculptures, and many more.
Thank you. Did your parents ever take you to a museum when you were a child?
When I was a kid, I don't remember it vividly, but it might have happened when I was a kid because my parents are also passionate about making a visit to museums and exploring the country's culture and history. It might have happened, but I don't have a vivid memory of me visiting to a museum with my parents.
Thanks. I'd like to move on to the topic of noise. Do you live in a noisy area?
Yes and no. Some parts of the city are pretty noisy and crowded. The volume of the volume of like human actions is pretty high in some parts of the city, but some parts of the city are pretty peaceful and quiet. We have this botanical gardens, public gardens, and and these kinds of quiet places that I like to go from time to time.
Thank you. Would you like to live in a more peaceful place?
I'm a big time introvert, so I really enjoy living in a serene environment. I really like it. Especially, I like the feeling of reading a book and not being interrupted by people. I really like it. Yes, in fact, I have a long-term plan to leave, to buy a nice family home, like in the countryside. That's my long-term plan.
Thanks. And what are the noisiest places in your country?
I think that Tashkent, which is the capital of Uzbekistan, as I had mentioned, is the noisiest place in Uzbekistan. Well, we have some areas that are extremely crowded and noisy, like Tashkent City area, which is commonly visited by a lot of Uzbek people and tourists, is quite noisy. For example, I have made a visit there quite recently. As I'm a big time introvert, I always kind of felt pretty nervous, being surrounded by thousands of people. So,
Thank
yeah.
you. We're now going to move on to the second part of the test. I will give you a question and you'll have 1 minute to prepare your answer. After 1 minute, I'd like you to speak for between 1 and 2 minutes. Is that clear?
Yes, that is clear.
You should see the question on your screen now, which is: describe a difficult task that you completed at work or study that you felt proud of. You have 1 minute to prepare. Thank you, Mustafa. You may now begin. Don't worry if I interrupt you.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about one of the challenging things I have done over the past 3 years. Well, getting to the point, in 2021, I decided to learn English language and crack a very high band score in the IELTS exam. Actually, that was something which was based on recommendations of my mom and dad. They told me to study the IELTS as it was becoming quite popular in Uzbekistan, and then I started. I was pretty ambitious at that time. I decided to completely clean my environment. You know what I'm talking about, like saying no to vacations, saying no to friends, saying no to a lot of things, which was pretty hard as a young man. Apart from that, what I did was I completely isolated myself to study for 6 to 12 hours a day, every single day without taking days off. I set a goal to study for 3 years non-stop. So what really happened was, I would study for longer hours, and I was also having a very healthy routine at that time. It was hard. I was feeling down. I was feeling down most of the time, but I kept going, regardless of any problems and obstacles I was facing. I would listen to a lot of successful people. I would listen to my parents. I would get a lot of motivation, and I would kept going. Uh, so so in the end, in 2023, I took the test, and guess what happened? I did exceptionally well in my IELTS exam. I was not only felt
Thank
proud
you.
of, so yeah.
Thank you. How did your
All right.
family feel at the time?
Well, my mom and dad felt pretty much proud of me because imagine like saying to know a lot of temptations and creating a personal discipline was not a lot of people can do that at that time. I could do that at that time. So, but I did it. So they were proud of, yeah, they felt pretty proud.
Thank you. So I'd like to move on to the next part of the test, and we're going to stay on the topic of feeling proud and working hard. So, what types of things make people proud?
Well, a lot of things can make people feel proud. I think the number one, which is coming to my mind, as soon as you ask the question, is something achieving something worthwhile. For example, as I had mentioned about myself in part two, I achieved something that I decided to achieve, and I felt proud of myself in the end. I think that's pretty much common to say among a lot of people.
Thank
Number
you.
two, financial stability is something that is quite attractive. Once people become financially powerful, they start feeling confidence about themselves. I think that's what I think.
So, what challenges do young people face nowadays?
A lot of obstacles and problems and challenges the young generation is facing these days. I think the number one is academic challenges. A lot of young people, including myself, are studying literally nonstop to achieve something worthwhile despite being surrounded by a lot of distractions.
And why do people study so much? What's the goal?
I think the once you start succeeding, whether it's academically or financially, you feel elevated and complete positive emotion, and you start releasing a lot of dopamine. And that could be the major reason why people keep going and cannot stop. Once they stop, they feel like they are falling behind, whether it's academically or financially.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
What are the most difficult jobs that people do nowadays?
Well, after COVID-19 and during COVID-19, I think doctors had a pretty hard time, like taking care of everything and keeping everything under control. I think that there has to be some level of respect for them from citizens, from us, yeah, from humans. I think their job is quite challenging. Imagine like carrying out a brain surgery or some kind of a surgery is, well, which is beyond human imagination for a lot of people.
What kinds of rewards do people receive from work?
Different types of rewards people usually get in the workplace. The first one is I get financial rewards from their like managers. As an English teacher, from time to time I get bonuses, financial bonuses from my boss, and that's pretty rewarding. I feel a lot of positive emotion. I think number two is having an opportunity to grow as an individual. That's pretty much common to see. The companies, organizations will provide opportunities for employees to grow as an individual, like having a healthy environment or getting constant bonuses from companies. So yeah.
Thank you, Mustafa. That is the end of the speaking test.
All right. Thank you so much.
How was that for you? What did you feel, or how do you feel right now?
Uh, well, I felt a bit nervous in part one. I could have done it better. I don't know, probably because you guys have a huge following, and that's the thing that was coming to my mind in part one. But then I did my best to control. Yeah.
Great. I think you did a great job. You extended and expanded on your answers really well. There were times where you maybe repeated a couple of phrases that you, I don't know, it felt like maybe you'd memorized them. So I think you talked about something about being an introvert, and you said, I'm a big time introvert. And I think you used the word big time twice. If we go back and listen again, that's not too problematic. But what I would say is don't repeat the same phrases. It's an amazing phrase, and I'm super happy that you used it because you have to use idiomatic language in the test. But if you use it multiple times, then the examiner might think that you've just memorized it. So that was some feedback that I have for you. You had great extension on your answers. There were times where you made very minor grammatical mistakes, but overall, your grammatical range, which is the complexity of your language, how many different types of complex sentences did you use, was actually pretty high. So I'm very impressed by that. You're trying to go for an 8.5 in speaking, aren't you?
Yes, in my recent mock tests in Uzbekistan, I have scored constantly like 9, 9, 9. But hey, it's subjective. It fluctuates. Sometimes we get 8 for some reason. Sometimes we get 9. It
I
really depends on our
think
mood,
with
depends on the situation.
I think with a 9, you have to be almost entirely error free, and you have to show lack of repetition of words and phrases. So on this occasion, I don't think you met a 9. There were a few things. I'll bring them up and I'll talk to you about some of the feedback that I have. Loved some of your language where you said things like it released a lot of dopamine. I like the when you used the word literally in part 3. That was great. You paraphrase words and phrases, so you change words like obstacles and you use words like problems and challenges, which was fantastic. Very, very, very impressive. One grammatical mistake that you made was pretty much proud of. Okay, so the word pride or proud in this case is an adjective. So I am proud. You can't say I'm pretty much proud. You would have to say I'm pretty proud of what I've done. So using the word much in there would be a minor mistake. Language where you've used less common vocabulary. So you said I was feeling down. You said what else? Doctors had a pretty hard time. So the word pretty crept in a few times. Overall, I think you had a great speaking attempt here, and there's loads of language that students will be able to take away from your speech. My score today, you would have almost a 9 in fluency and coherence. I think on a good day, if you had a very pleasant examiner who was feeling good, your extension of answers, the fluency, the ability to speak without stopping was great, and I'm going to give you a 9 today in fluency and coherence. Grammatical range and accuracy will probably be an 8. There were a few errors that slipped through, and to get a 9, you have to be pretty much error-free in all sentences, unfortunately. So I'll give you an 8 in grammar today. Lexical resource, lots and lots of different paraphrased words, synonymous language, which was really nice. There were times where you repeated some lexis. An examiner may pick up on that. So you may score 8, you may score 9 in lexical resource. You showed a very kind of adept ability. You were very skillful in using less common language, which was excellent. And pronunciation. At all times, you were easy to understand. You had lots of different pronunciation features, which was great. There were a couple of instances where you slightly misstressed words, okay? But nothing too problematic, and you may score 9 there too. So overall today, it's a guaranteed no less than an 8 today, which was great. A possible 8.5. A little bit of work to do if you want to score your band 9. Mustafa, thank you very much for coming along today. I am sure that the students will be very grateful that you were able to demonstrate a very high level speaking test today. So, big thumbs up to you. Is there anything that you want to share with the students? Any tips, any strategies, any techniques that you think are useful?
Yeah. I would like to share. The one thing that I did when I was actually preparing for the IELTS is I would talk to myself like literally for 24/7. Really for 24/7. I would sit in front of the mirror and I would bring a cup of coffee and I would speak for hours and hours. I would talk about things that I was actually interested in. I would read books based on my curiosity. I would watch films based on my interest. So you have to spice it up. And I also have created a study area for myself with over 1,000 sticky notes in my bedroom.
I'm going to show the students a picture of your bedroom. You'll see it on the screen now. It's very impressive, Mustafa. Well done to you on that. It shows a lot of kind of dedication to studying. Can you give me an example of a few different websites or companies that you use to help you along the way?
Yes, I have a lot of websites that I like to use, and there is no specific website that I use for vocabulary because I'm extremely active while listening to podcasts, watching movies. I grab my post-it notes and jot down a lot of idiomatic language vocabulary as soon as I hear them, or jot down some beautiful expressions like people have different likes and dislikes as soon as I read them. So I am pretty much active. Well, there are some websites that I use for reading, for example, 16 Personalities, Very Well Minds, uh, you, Yonder. I think it's pronounced something like that, but it's a very good website. And also, ChatGPT is a powerful website for students to not only have a chit chat with ChatGPT and take a lot of like vocabulary and ideas. I think ChatGPT is like completely enough for students to score a high, not only in speaking, but also in other components of the IELTS.
And not forgetting, of course, Mustafa, IELTS Daily.
Oh, yes, IELTS Daily, you too. Well, what I did was, let me tell you something, Chris. So I would watch every candidate on YouTube on IELTS Daily and it would. So what I did was I would hear the answer of IELTS candidates like Band 9 holders and Band 8.5 holders, and I would answer for the same question on my own. And I would
What a
jot down
great
a lot of
strategy.
beautiful expressions from those candidates. That's how I did. I think I might have watched over 15 interviews with you. Yeah, with candidates.
And now you're sitting in front of the camera and you are the candidate. So remember, students, if you're watching this today and if you're impressed by things that Mustafa said, any language that he used, definitely contribute. Put some of those ideas in the comments. We love to read them, and Mustafa's probably going to come back and check them and make sure that he can get some feedback too. When we
Yes.
learn, it's all about community. It's your ability to help one student and one student who's able to help you. Now, you told me, Mustafa, that you are running a Telegram channel. Are you going to share that Telegram link with us so that we can post it in the description below?
Yes, I'm gonna share it. It's called IELTS with Mustafa, double F in Mustafa.
Well, it was our pleasure, Mustafa. Thank you very much for coming along today. We loved having you too. So take care of yourself and maybe we'll see you in the next session.
Thank you for having me, Chris. Glad to see you too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.